You know, this quote from Gandhi, it really sets the stage for what we're going to talk about. He was talking about strength and resilience, sure, but this idea also perfectly captures this secret superpower that we all have, one we use every single day without even thinking about it.
And that superpower? Well, it lies hidden in your own voice. So today, we're going to unpack the secrets of how and why your voice is constantly and brilliantly changing. And it all kicks off with a story from the very research we're diving into.
So picture this. Our researcher is at this huge academic conference. You can just imagine the sound, right? The air is buzzing with hundreds of conversations. There's clinking of coffee cups. It's just loud.
And right in the middle of all that chaos, she's talking to a friend, leaning in close, trying to be heard over the noise. The conversation is just casual, totally familiar. Okay, but then things get a little weird. She and her friend, they start playing a card game with a robot. Yeah, a physical, talking robot that's part of an exhibition.
And right there, that's the puzzle that sparked this entire investigation. In that single moment, our researcher realized she was juggling 3 completely different speaking styles. She was talking one way to her friend, a totally different way to the robot, and then a third way to a salesman standing a bit further away. And the crazy part? It was all unconscious. So what on earth was going on?
Well, this leads us to this fantastic idea, the communication chameleon. It's the concept that our voice is this incredibly adaptive tool that's always changing to match its surroundings.
I mean, think about it for a second. Is the voice you use with your boss the same one you use when you're talking to a toddler? Or when you're ordering coffee in a quiet little cafe versus yelling your order in a packed bar? Of course not, right? You adapt instantly, and you don't even have to think about it.
So here's the key takeaway. We are all communication chameleons. This isn't some rare skill, it's a fundamental part of being human. And according to this research, this constant adjustment is guided by 3 secret drivers, which we are about to reveal one by one.
All right, our first driver is just fascinating. We actually change how we speak based on the content of what we're saying. And this whole idea comes from a field called information theory.
The key concept here is something called predictability. Now, it sounds technical, but it's really simple. In any sentence, some words are just more expected than others. Like, if I say, the cat sat on the, your brain probably just screamed, mat. Mat is a super predictable word in that context.
And this is a perfect example of how powerful predictability is. Your brain can read this sentence with basically no effort, filling in all those missing vowels. Why? Because the context makes the missing letters so predictable that, in a way, they aren't even necessary.
This happens because our brains are fundamentally lazy, but in a really smart way. They are built for efficiency. So when a word is highly predictable, we subconsciously put less physical effort into saying it. We shorten it, we kind of mumble it, because we know our listener's brain can easily fill in that gap for us.
Okay, so we adapt to our message, but what about the world around us? Well, that brings us to driver number 2, adapting to the channel, or, just the environment you're in.
You absolutely know this feeling. It's called the Lombard effect. The second you walk into a noisy room or a loud concert, what happens? You instinctively start talking louder. You don't make a conscious decision to do it. Your brain just takes over to make sure you can be heard.
And check this out. It's not just about getting louder. When the Lombard effect kicks in, a bunch of things change. As you can see here, our pitch goes up, our loudness obviously increases, and we even slow down a little, stretching our words out. We're basically creating a stronger, clearer signal to cut through all that noise.
Now here's where it gets really cool. Do you see the conflict here? Driver number 1, predictability, tells our brain to be efficient, to shorten our sounds. But driver number 2, the Lombard effect, tells us to be clear, to lengthen our sounds. Our brain is constantly, in milliseconds, calculating and resolving this tug-of-war.
And that brings us to our final and maybe the most complex driver. We don't just adapt to the message or the room, we adapt to the person or thing that we're talking to.
This is all explained by something called accommodation theory. The big idea is that our vocal changes are a way of managing our social relationships. We use our voice to signal things like closeness, distance, power, and cooperation.
And this accommodation can go in 2 different directions. There's convergence, which is when we start to sound more like the person we're talking to. Maybe we match their speed or their pitch. This usually signals, hey, I like you, we're on the same team. Then there's divergence, which is the opposite. We emphasize our differences, which can signal social distance or even, hey, I'm in charge here.
And the things that trigger these changes are just amazing. The research found we accommodate differently depending on if it's a friend or a boss, whether we're cooperating or competing, and get this, it even changes based on whether we win or lose a game against someone. And yep, it even matters if our partner is a human or, like in our story, a robot.
So let's pull this all together. What have we learned? We've got these three powerful, invisible forces constantly shaping the way we speak: the message itself, the channel we're in, and the listener we're with.
And this is probably the most important thing to remember. These adaptations aren't just simple knee-jerk reflexes, like when a doctor taps your knee. No way. They are incredibly sophisticated, socially intelligent calculations that our brains are performing constantly just to help us navigate our social world.
In the end, it's not just automatic machinery. As the original researcher puts it right here, this whole process is fundamentally social. It's about connection, it's about communication, and it's about how we position ourselves with others. It's a choice, even if it's a choice we don't always realize we're making.
So, the next time you're in a conversation, just listen for a second. Not just to the words, but to the music of their voice, and your own. Your voice is telling a story that's way richer than you might think. What story is yours telling right now?